Hey, welcome to the second series in this video all about logic and the CPU. Alright, and today what we're going to do is we're going to learn about the components that you will find inside a computer system. So maybe for some of you this might be revision, for some of you this might be something new, okay, but hopefully you'll enjoy today's lesson. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so I've got a little activities for you to start with, alright, and what I want you to do first of all is I've got some, what would you call them, components of a computer system. Okay, these are all components of a computer system. Some of them you may recognize, some of them you might not. Okay, and what I want you to do with these components is I want you to group them. Okay, so they can be grouped into three groups. So I want you to have a go at grouping them, all right? And at the end of this video, we're going to talk about the theme for each of the groups, okay? But for now, what I want you to do is just see if you can group them by things that you think they all have in common. So I'm going to give you a minute to do that. So make sure you pause the video, okay, and give yourself a minute to have a go at grouping these devices. Okay, go. Alright, so hopefully you were honest and you paused for a minute there. Okay, so what I asked you to do was group these into three groups. Okay, so we're going to go through now the groups that you've got, see if you agree or disagree with me, and then, as I said, I will tell you at the end of the lesson what each of the groups has in common. Okay, but maybe you can work it out before then. Okay, so this is my first group. Alright, in this group, hopefully you recognize each one of these. Okay, so what I've got in my first group is a mouse, a microphone, and you might not recognize this third one. Okay, that's a scanner. Okay, some of you may have one of those at home. Some of you may have it on top of a printer. Often they come as an all-in-one device, a scanner and a printer together. Okay, so they've all got something in common. I want you to think about what you think they all have in common, and again, we'll talk about it at the end of the lesson. Okay, so this is the next group. So here we've got a monitor. I think that was pretty obvious that was a monitor. We've got a printer and we've got some speakers. Okay, again, so what I want you to think about is what do they have in common? Why have I grouped specifically have I grouped those three together, which is interesting. Okay, and then the final group then is this is what's left. Okay, now you might not recognize some of these. I imagine you recognize the first one, which is an SD card, or in fact a micro SD card. Alright, you've probably got one of those in your phone, so you hopefully recognize that, or your camera. And then the second one, now you may or may not have recognized the second one. The second one is RAM. Okay, so that's RAM, and then the third one is a hard disk drive. Okay, so now that you know that, you might not recognize what two out of those three were. Alright, so now that you know that, you maybe can have a think, as the video progresses, have a think about what you think those have got in common. Okay, so we're going to move on. Alright, and as I said, we're going to talk about the components that make up a computer system today. So what we need to do first of all is we need to make sure we understand some keywords. Okay, so our first keyword is hardware. And what do we mean by hardware? What does that mean? Okay, so again, I want you to give yourself a minute and just have a think about what you think hardware means. Alright, so pause now. Okay, so hopefully you've had a think about what hardware means. Okay, I don't know what you've come up with, but this is what I have come up with. Okay, so hardware is defined as the physical components of the computer system. They are the parts that you can see and that you can touch. Okay, so again, we've already met some of those hardware components, haven't we? We talked about mouse, keyboards, monitor. All of those are pieces of hardware that make up a computer system. Okay, so the hardware components are the bits that you can see and you can touch. Okay, now the question I want you to think about is, does a computer system just require hardware? Does it only require hardware to work? Alright, so again, I want you to pause the video for a minute and just think about that. Does our computer system just require hardware to work? That's the question I've got here. Alright, so give yourself a minute, pause again, and I'll speak to you in a minute. Okay, so hopefully again you gave yourself a minute. So does our computer system just need hardware to work? Well, I think we already know the answer to this because we've just completed a programming unit. Okay, and in the programming unit we were learning how to tell the computer what to do. Okay, and so without some instructions that tell it what to do, our computer won't do anything. Okay, so we can't have a computer system just hardware alone. All right, we also require software, and every computer system, okay, whether it's your iPad, whether it's your washing machine, whether it's your air conditioning system, those are all examples of different computer systems, and they all require some form of software. Okay, and if we think about it, software are the programs that tell our computer what to do. Okay, those programs, you wrote them. Okay, you've written quite a few programs. Those programs tell the computer what to do. They are instructions that tell the computer what to do. Okay, now the thing about software, of course, is you can't see or touch it. So it is different from the hardware because we can't see it and we can't touch it. Okay, now what I want you to think about again, as these units progress, is I want you to think about there is one piece of software which all computer systems have in common. It might be made by different people, okay, but there is one piece of software that every computer system have. Again, whether it's your phone, your washing machine, your iPad, okay, your desktop computer, your laptop computer, there's one piece of software that they all contain. And I want you to think about, can you work out what that piece of software is? Okay, now I'm not going to give you a minute for that. You can just think about that as we're progressing. Okay, so we're going to move on now, and I'm going to show you a video. Okay, now this video is all about how a computer works. So what I want you to do is I want you to watch the video. All right, and as you watch the video, make sure you're making some notes. So don't forget to use your pause button. All right, and make some notes as you watch the video. Okay, because you will be doing a task based on what you see in the video. All right, off we go.
Do you remember when you first realized that your computer was more than just a monitor and keyboard? That between the mouse click and the video playing, there was something that captured your attention, understood it, and made it real? What is that something? Is it gremlins? Let's imagine that we can shrink down to the size of an electron and inject ourselves into a click of a mouse. If you took your mouse apart, you'd see that it's really a very simple machine. It has a couple buttons and a system for detecting motion and distance. You might have an optical mouse that makes these measurements with lights and sensors, but older ones did this with a hard rubber ball and some plastic wheels. Same concept. When you click the button on your mouse, it sends a message to the computer with information about its position. When your mouse click is received, it's handled by the basic input-output subsystem. This subsystem acts like the eyes and ears, and mouth and hands of the computer. Basically, it provides a way for the computer to interact with its environment. But it also acts like a buffer to keep the CPU from being overwhelmed by distractions. In this case, the I/O subsystem decides that your mouse click is pretty important, so it generates an interrupt to the CPU. Hey CPU, got a click here. The CPU, or central processing unit, is the brains of the whole computer. Just like your brain doesn't take up your whole body, the CPU doesn't take up the whole computer, but it runs the show all the same. And the CPU's job, its whole job, is fetching instructions from memory and executing them. So while you're typing, maybe really fast, like 60 words a minute, the CPU is fetching and executing billions of instructions a second. Yes, billions, every second. Instructions to move your mouse around on the screen, to run that clock widget on your desktop, play your internet radio, manage the files you're editing on the hard drive, and much, much more. Your computer's CPU is one heck of a multitasker. But oh my gosh, there's a very important mouse click coming through now. Let's drop everything now and deal with that. There are programs for everything that the CPU does. A special program for the mouse, for the clock widget, for the internet radio, and for dealing with letters sent by the keyboard. Each program was initially written by a human in a human-readable programming language like Java, C++, or Python. But human programs take up a lot of space and contain a lot of unnecessary information to a computer, so they're compiled and made smaller and stored in bits of ones and zeros in memory. The CPU realizes that it needs instructions for how to deal with this mouse click, so it looks up the address for the mouse program and sends a request to the memory subsystem for instructions stored there. Each instruction in the mouse device driver is duly fetched and executed. And that's not nearly the end of the story. Because the CPU learns that the mouse was clicked when the cursor was over a picture of a button on the monitor screen, and so the CPU asks memory for the monitor program to find out what that button is. And then the CPU has to ask memory for the program for the button, which means that the CPU needs the monitor program again to show the video associated with the button, and so it goes. And let's just say that there are a lot of programs involved before you even see the button on the screen light up when you clicked it. So just the simple task of clicking your mouse means visiting all of the critical components of your computer's architecture. Peripherals, the basic input-output system, the CPU, programs, and memory, and not one gremlin.
Okay, so hopefully you found that video useful. There were lots and lots of different components of the computer system that they talk about. Alright, so your task, which is posted on Show My Homework, is going to be to explain what you found out about each of the different components that was talked about in that video. Okay, so obviously feel free to play the video back again in your own time. Alright, but I'm going to be looking for you to explain what each of those different components did, and please, like last week, please upload your completed work to Show My Homework. Okay, now I've got a little extension activity for you, so if you complete it in less than an hour, which definitely a lot of you will do, okay, what I want you to do, the extension activity I want you to do, is to look into different types of memory. Okay, so the video talks about memory, and memory is very important in a computer system. So I want you to think about what are, or have a look at and see what you can find out about different types of memory. Okay, so that's your extension activity. Now I did promise before the end of the video that we would go back to these three groups, okay, and discuss what they all have in common. Okay, so if we look at this first one, has anyone managed to work this out? Okay, the first one, mouse, microphone and scanner. Hopefully the video helped. Okay, they are all types of input device. Alright, so these are all used to input data into the computer. Okay, so the computer needs data to be able to process and do something too. Alright, and these are the ways that we get these are some of the ways that we get data into our computer. Alright, so that'll give you a big hint on what this second group is. Okay, hopefully you've all understood that this second group are all examples of output device. Okay, so when the computer has done something to that data, when it's processed it, alright, it then wants to show us what it's done. Okay, and we get to see the results, and that of course is done on an output device. Okay, so what we've got here are three different output devices: a monitor, a printer, and some speakers. Okay, and can you think about any other type of output devices? Same with the first group. Obviously there are more input devices that we could have picked there. Can you ever think about what those input devices might have been? Okay, and hopefully this third one might make a bit more sense now. These are all, and this might help you with the extension activity. Okay, so these are all different types of storage. Okay, so we've got an SD card, we've got RAM, and we've got a hard disk drive. And in fact, these types of storage all store data in slightly different ways. Okay, so you can even look up and see if you can find out about how they store data. Okay, because it's quite an interesting story. Okay, well, if we that's it from me in our second video. Okay, there'll be a third video next week, so good luck with all your activities. Don't forget that your teacher will be running a live lesson at some point this week, so keep an eye out for that, and I will see you next week. Thank you.